Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. And we're going to look here at an astonishing waste of money. Huge amount of money being spent on something that benefits so few people. But it's done not because it's useful, but because it is politically expedient. It is the push for independence. It is the making of a grievance, the creating of an elite. It's something they firmly politically believe in, regardless of how expensive it is and how wasteful it is. And it is the teaching of Gaelic in schools. And I know in my previous time I've talked about this, I said Gaelic, but I come from Ireland and I have the softer pronunciation. I will change it to Gaelic this time because we're dealing obviously with Scotland. And if it was an Irish thing, I would of course have said Gaelic. So I just want to get that one out of the way. Same word, different pronunciation, because softer language. Even though you'd think Northern Irish, as I am, very harsh, but also on my father's side, Waterford. So, you know, I'm a potato eater on both sides of it. And only I can say that. If you say that, that's racist. Anyway, we'll have a look at the story to see exactly how much it is being wasted. And let me tell you, it is a fortune. But hey ho, let's have a look and see about the story. Here goes. Now we know how cash-strapped Glasgow City Council truly is. This is why they have to expand the ULIS zone and all that because they need to raise cash. Because obviously it's not cheap sending old two-seats around the world first class, quaffing champagne at 30,000 feet. But given how tight money seems to be, it's amazing that they can spend this amount of money on Gaelic schools. Like, wait till you can see the number, but wait until we get there to the actual number of pupils. So cash-strapped, SNP-led Glasgow City Council splash out almost 30 million on Gaelic schools. It's not really going to be useful. Why not, if people are determined to learn Gaelic, they don't, go and pay for it themselves and go to night classes and do correspondence courses or whatever, rather than creating a whole school that speaks this language, a language spoken nowhere else in the world, at a time when teaching of English in Scotland is so appallingly bad they're crashing down the league tables, where maths, science are so bad, every subject is so bad. But rather than spend 30 million on bringing all these pupils in Glasgow up, they're spending 30 million on teaching a very elite group Gaelic in one school. 30 million. How much more good would that do spread across all the schools of Edinburgh? I think a lot better way of spending the money, because it is elitist. And I can see that the direction of travel here will be like Wales, where you will not be able to become a civil servant or a politician or anything unless you speak, in Wales, Welsh, but in Scotland, Gaelic. But Gaelic isn't even the Scottish language. So it's ultra elitist. It's an elite within the elite. And for what reason? It's an absolute wankfest of cash for nothing. The nationalist-led local authority spends 8 million a year on running Gaelic schools, despite only 3% of the region's pupils attending them. Cash-strapped cash-strapped SNP-led Glasgow City Council has splashed out almost 30 million on Gaelic schools in just 4 years. It has 4 primary schools and 1 secondary school. These are the home to 450 pupils. 8 million a year for 450 pupils. That is absolutely astonishing waste of money, isn't it? I mean, how can you possibly justify that? I mean, that's money that would be better spent. I mean, seriously, better spent by going into every school and going money, 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 right? I don't know how many schools there are in Glasgow, but even so, dividing 8 million into them, it's still going to be thousands per school. Textbooks or upgrade or maybe a bit of repair and maintenance money. But no, push the elitism. About 1% of Scottish pupils are in Gaelic medium education, and 0.5% of secondary school children are in the same category. That's how small it is, and yet they can wank this money away on it. Despite this, the spend on the special premises and provisions has risen year on year from 2019 to 2020 up to 22-23. 4 years ago, a total of £6.5 million was spent on teaching the ancient language, which is only spoken by a tiny percentage of Scots, but this is now skyrocketed to £8.3 million over the last financial year. These costs mainly come from paying for teachers and support staff. Well, why not pay that same amount of money, but for teachers of maths, English, science, history? Wouldn't that be a better spend? Money then that would benefit far more pupils, for the same money. You're getting a bigger bang for your buck. These costs mainly... Oh, just done that. There are also 3 nurseries to supplement the schools. These kids can barely speak English, let alone Gaelic, which isn't, like I say, even the national language. I prefer Doric myself, but that's just me. Anyway, a total of 87% of Gaelic medium education pupils at the secondary level are located in just 3 council areas, with Glasgow top with 409,000. No, sorry, with Glasgow top with 409, 386 in the Western Isles and 296 in Highlands. I was up at the top left. I was going across to Cape Wrath, and there was a little man that was running the ferry up there, and he had such a strange accent, and I had to listen. I thought he was speaking some weird vernacular, and it turns out, he was speaking English, but it was such a strong accent. It was very hard to understand, but it was lovely sing-songy accent. Yeah, I can't understand. I'm almost slipping into Irish, and I don't mean to, but it was wonderful accent. But I really had to concentrate, and I've got an ear for it, with obviously having relatives and everything. And even then, I had to really listen to what he was saying, and I honestly thought it was Gaelic. Wasn't. It was English. Sorry, fascinating tangent. Anyway, at last available figures in 2020, Glasgow had 1,306 pupils in these special schools. 1,306 across the board, with there being 41,725 overall enrolled in primary schools across the region. This means £8 million is being spent on the school for just 3% of the area. Now, they said there was 450 pupils. I mean, 8 million into 450 is £1,800 a pupil, something like that. I mean, that's a lot of money just for these pupils. £1,800 isn't being spent on all the other pupils in Scotland, is it? That is just unbelievable. And yet, what use is it? None at all. These kids can barely read and write, and yet, we'll pump millions in to make them learn Gaelic for no reason. More savings will probably need to be found for the budget next year, with officials looking at charges for some of the free museums and attractions owned by the local authority, the likes of Kelvin Grove Museum and Riverside Transport Museum, for example, because they're insufficient funds, and yet they can wank this money away on that. It's stupid and wrong, and as I say, it's elitist. Gaelic spending is also undertaken by the Scottish Government, who offer grants to councils to help them with initiatives like Gaelic Schools. We previously told how a massive £117 million is being spent on these language projects. That's the video I did about a month ago or so now, I seem to remember. The cash is mostly included to glance to the Gaelic broadcasting and the official board in Gaelic, while the Gaelic Capital Fund allows the building of new schools. All this money spent on this, nobody really wants to speak it. Yes, sure, there's some hardcore extremists that are pushing it, but why not pay for it themselves if they're that determined? Why public money? Why waste money? £1 billion in the hole, probably nearer £2 billion in the hole, and you can just pour money down the drain on things like this for an elitist few, so that in a few years' time, when they take over, they'll say you've got to speak Gaelic or you're not getting a job with the government or the councils. And that's how it is. Then they maintain. It's almost like it's the new aristocracy, isn't it? Oh, you've got to be in the club. It's like, sort of medieval time. You've got to have a title. You've got to have your letters patent and all that. You have it's not a meritocracy. It's an aristocracy. That's what's going to come. Only here it's the aristos aren't the ones with titles. It's the ones who've had the language teaching. Anyway, I'm going to round off and come up. But it is just disgusting, really. All that waste. Coming up. Well, I suppose the only answer there is Sheena Wheeler Karsta Spartaf. But I'm not going to get into that. It seems very odd. It just is. At a time when they're constantly complaining about a lack of money, that they can find money for crap like that. Can't actually do anything good. Can't educate all the city's children, but they can educate that little elite, that little future aristocracy of Scotland that they're building up. Never mind. You keep voting them in. That's what happens. Till next time, stay safe, stay well, and I will speak to you later. Bye.